When I, 28 female, was a little girl, my mother married my stepfather, Nick. My mother was a loving and involved parent to Nick's son, Ben, now 34 male, but not to me. There were pictures of my mother, Nick, and Ben all over the house, but none of me. They found any excuse to have family time without me. My mother once told me that it was hard for her to love me and look at me because I looked so much like my father. My father was an alcoholic and a cheater. My mother and Nick would constantly comment about how I'd be a failure and an embarrassment, just like my father. Ben was extremely cruel to me, and my mother and Nick only responded to his verbal and emotional abuse by telling me to respect Ben. My only familial support was my paternal grandparents. They supported me unconditionally. They helped with college, and I moved in with them after graduation. My grandparents are now in heaven. I inherited their home and have lived there alone for 3 years now. I've tried many times since graduation to talk to Ben about how his bullying impacted me, but unfortunately, Ben takes no accountability for any of his cruelty toward me and only says how, even if it was that bad, we were just kids. Or why are you still caught up on that? That was ages ago. I hadn't talked to Ben in almost 2 years before he reached out to me through social media. Ben explained that he and his family were being evicted from their previous home. Apparently, it's bad enough that practically nowhere is willing to accept Ben and his family as tenants. The only place willing to take them is in a highly shady and dangerous area, and he feels it isn't safe for his daughter, Adeline, a very young female child. My mother and Nick weren't an option, so we hoped that he and his family would be able to stay with me. I admit it's a big house, 3 bedrooms and a large yard and garage. Ben said that Adeline could take 1 room and that he and his wife could live in the other, and he offered me a sizable rent. I told Ben no, and that I really didn't feel comfortable living with him again because of what he put me through as a child. Ben made the same arguments about that was in the past, and that we probably wouldn't need to interact with one another because of our differing schedules. I told him no, and that was final. The people that I've explained this situation to are divided. The people supporting my decision say that Ben has never treated me like family, and he doesn't get to waltz into my life demanding familial support when he hasn't even apologized for his verbal and emotional abuse. But many people are telling me to think about Adeline because my decision will have the heaviest impact on her and not on Ben. And I should know more than anyone that no child should be punished for their parents' bad choices. So now I'm conflicted about my decision. Am I the idiot for refusing to let them move in? Not the idiot. This is disgusting. Your mother shunning and neglecting you because you looked like her ex, and your stepbrother's family being evicted are not comparable. The only reason he's contacting you is that he needs something from you. Oh, and also, he won't take accountability for being a bully to you in childhood, and you don't owe him anything. Wait a minute. He offered you a sizable rent, but they're being evicted and no one else will rent to them? They move in and would probably never pay rent to you either because they are family. I'd suggest installing security cameras on your property if you haven't already, and also take back any spare copies of your keys and change the locks. That or money isn't why they're being evicted, and that's worse. Let's put aside his cruelty to you when he was 6 years older than you, and also his complete lack of responsibility for his actions for a moment. For the sake of this argument, let's pretend he was a good person and never did anything wrong that you know of. You don't know why he was evicted, but you know that nowhere else will take him, no matter how much he pays. I can't think of many reasons that would get you evicted, which aren't not paying the rent related. Sugar use, dealing, frequent calls to the police, damage to the property, other sources of violence, none of which the OP wants to come within a mile of her house. If you're getting crap now for a situation you didn't cause, what level of crap will you get when you must evict them for doing whatever they've been doing? Don't take the easy way by appeasing them temporarily. It really isn't the easy way. Also, why is living with your mom and his dad a problem? Maybe they already know the reason for such a messy eviction. Anyone telling you to let this idiot into your home actively wishes you physical, financial, and emotional harm. Avoid them and their advice going forward. Better yet, Ask if it's okay to pass on their contact info to Ben so they can accommodate him and his family. We both know Ben won't pay you a dime of rent and cause you damage. My stepsister was supposed to get married in December, and as part of the pre-wedding celebration, her in-laws invited us on a trip with their extended family. My dad is a good friend of her fiance's uncle, and I'm close to his daughter, so I was excited about the trip. Before we left, my stepmother and stepsister kept stressing about how we all needed to be on our best behavior because they didn't want to risk the wedding being called off. I tried my best, but they were stressing me out because they worried about every little thing offending her fiance's grandparents. Finally, my friend, her brother, and cousins invited me to hang out one night, and I agreed, even though I knew my stepsister wouldn't want me to. I wound up drinking a little too much and was caught in a compromising position with my friend's brother by his uncle. My stepsister was so angry when she found out, and we had a massive fight because she thought I did it on purpose to humiliate her, which isn't true. She keeps saying I've ruined everything and how she doesn't even know if she wants me at her wedding anymore, which I feel is overdramatic. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. It's not especially hard not to overdrink, and not especially hard to exercise some discretion when being in a compromising situation. You knew what the expectations were for the trip. This wasn't going to be a trip where you cut loose, so you should have declined the invitation. Agree. OP is 22. She knew what kind of trip this was and could opt out. She wanted a free 2-week vacation and was stressed out because she couldn't be a free spirit. If she got plastered, they probably wouldn't care too much. Still, casual intimacy when you're on vacation with someone's conservative grandparents is bad, especially since they expected you to do that from the start. The fact that they communicated this to you so strongly and in advance, coupled with the fact that you did exactly what they were worried about, makes me think you have a pattern of behavior that's embarrassing to your family. You are the idiot. She wanted to make a nice impression, and you drank too much and embarrassed everyone. So I can understand why she doesn't want you around at her wedding, because she's afraid you'll do something weird, wild, and embarrassing again. Exactly. No one warns people repeatedly to be on good behavior past age 12, unless there's a history of bad behavior. OP, you are an adult and couldn't behave for one weekend. You didn't only humiliate your stepsister, you humiliated yourself. My young teen daughter is a tough kid, so I gave her a surprise party with close family for her birthday. The thing is, my younger daughter, toddler, is a very picky eater and almost eats nothing. So I chose food that both my younger and older daughter like, such as vanilla cake, meatballs, cookies, and orange juice. Unfortunately, I'm financially struggling and can't afford anything else, but I did what I could do to make her happy. She wasn't happy. She was nagging the entire time and ruined everything. She refused to cut her cake because she only likes chocolate cake, which is not true. She is not picky. She didn't eat anything else either, and told me her dad threw her a bigger and better party with food she liked and spent the entire party in her bedroom. She went to her dad's home and called me a few days after that and said apparently her dad says she's old enough and doesn't have to come to my home again. I blew up at her dad, who called me an idiot for always prioritizing my other kids and not knowing what foods my daughter likes. You are the idiot. It's not making accommodations. It's blatantly not allowing your oldest daughter choices on her birthday and prioritizing her siblings' feelings and picky eating habits over what she enjoys. It's her birthday, not yours or your other kids. So you catered to your younger child's brattiness and ignored the actual birthday child's preferred foods, and she didn't get to choose her own cake. She should stay with her father. Enjoy your do-over family. Sorry, your ex is right. You blatantly chose your toddler's picky eating over your daughter's birthday. You could have, at the very least, given her the cake flavor she likes more. Your toddler will have to grow out of that picky stage sometime, and being catered to all the time isn't going to help. Also, I think you need to stop resenting your ex for his money. It's not villainous for him to be comfortable, and you're the one who chose to have more children on your income. Don't be surprised if she decides she wants to live with her dad full time, because it sounds like he's the only parent who's prioritizing her. And hey, if money's that big of an issue, you should be happy she wants to move out. One less kid to care for. Isn't she solving the problem for you? She's not a difficult child. You're a crap parent. I've been married to my now wife for 4 years. We are expecting our first child together soon. Unfortunately, due to complications with the pregnancy, my wife's doctor put her on bed rest. I also have a teen daughter from a previous relationship. My daughter lives with us full time. My daughter has struggled with her mental health for much of her adolescence and is currently in recovery from an eating disorder. Since my wife has gone on bed rest, she cannot do any grocery shopping, so the task has fallen upon me. But like many pregnant women, my wife has had intense cravings for food, especially junk food, so we've been keeping it in the house more now than in the past. 2 weeks ago, I had to go out of town. I stocked up the pantry and fridge for my girls before I left. Unfortunately, my daughter regressed and binged on all of my wife's snacks and junk food, leaving her with none. This caused a significant argument between my daughter and wife. When I got home, I mediated while my wife and daughter apologized to one another for the argument and had to sit down with my daughter to find out what was going on. Long story short, she told me that she was struggling with her ED again and that seeing all this junk food around the house lately was triggering. I got an emergency appointment with my daughter's doctor, and we're working through this with increased therapy appointments and medication changes. The issue now is that my wife wants me to buy more junk food. Thus far, I've refused to buy any because my daughter's in crisis, and we need to support her by not having triggering foods in the house for a while. This is causing a pretty big rift between my wife and me. She's depressed from being on bed rest, and almost nothing sounds appetizing to her except for microwave popcorn with Reese's. So not even something I can sneak in without my daughter knowing. So my wife hasn't been eating much, just mostly drinking protein shakes, though we have ample amounts of healthier food options in the house. Am I the idiot for refusing to buy her the junk food snacks my wife wants? You are the idiot. Your wife is on bed rest and therefore completely at your mercy. You are in total control of her life and needs and are currently denying them. There are so many solutions that could benefit both women. Why not get a lockbox to keep your wife's snacks in so she can have what she's craving and your daughter won't be able to binge? You are the idiot, and I feel so bad for your wife. You are completely ignoring her needs in favor of your daughter's. That's not how you treat your spouse, let alone your pregnant spouse carrying your child. And you're willing to starve your wife over not making your daughter confront her mental disorder and divorce her over words said out of pain, frustration, and probably hunger. SMH, go marry your daughter. If your daughter can't be around snacks and your wife is on bed rest so she cannot get them herself, you need to get a mini fridge and microwave to keep in your bedroom. But how do you plan on combating this issue when your child's a toddler and wants snacks? Will they not be able to enjoy snacks because of your daughter? There needs to be a way around this issue. Your daughter is struggling, and I understand that. But restricting food could raise food issues for the other individuals in the house. Not the idiot. I'm sorry, but going without popcorn and Reese's isn't harming the baby or your wife. Pregnancy cravings are just that, cravings, not necessities. Find her something she can keep stashed in her room away from your daughter. You need to support your kid if she's having serious issues right now. Likewise, your wife's need for junk food isn't a serious issue. Backstory. I, 43 female, have 4 kids. L, 22 female. Katie, nearly adult female. Cam, teen male. Isla, young child. And I'm also pregnant. My husband, 50, and I started adding to college funds every month for each of our kids as soon as we found out we were pregnant. I won't say the exact amount, but my husband has an excellent job, so it's more than most. We never told our kids because it just didn't feel necessary. Elle got pregnant young and ended up dropping out of school. I was very disappointed, but I understood. However, I was under the impression she would return later, but she has no plans to. The dad stuck around, and now they have one more kid, toddler, and one on the way. They are engaged but don't plan to marry until they can afford it. They were doing okay financially for a while, but due to the market right now, they've been struggling because Elle can't get a job since she doesn't have a diploma, so we've been loaning them money. Katie is a senior and just got accepted into college. We've been setting everything up, and she knows about the fund now. Katie and Elle were talking, and she was telling Elle about the school, and Elle asked how she was planning on paying for it. Katie responded, "My college fund." I was in the room while they were talking, and this made me panic. We had just planned on splitting it between the remaining 4, since we knew they were going to college. Elle asked me if they all had one, and I wasn't going to lie, so I said yes. She got really excited and went to call her fiancé and tell him the good news. I was confused and told her she couldn't have the money. She asked why, and I said it was for school. She got upset and left my house. The next day, I got a call from Elle. She was crying and begging me to let her have the funds so she could finally afford a down payment and maybe even a wedding. I told her she could have the money if she went back to school, and whatever money was left over, she could use it for whatever she wanted. She got super mad and started yelling at me and saying that it was her money. I told her it was my money and those were my conditions, and she hung up. Now we're being harassed by her fiancé's family. They aren't as fortunate as us, calling us idiots and many other names, saying it's all going to go to waste if she doesn't use it, setting her up for failure, etc. Now I'm wondering if I'm the idiot because my dad said we should give her the money as we saved it for her after all. So, am I the idiot? You are the idiot. So you know that your little Isla, an unborn future maybe kid, are planning to go to college? Why the heck didn't you tell your kids about the money? This is one of the most foolish things I've ever heard of. The eldest 2 got unfairly blindsided. All of the other kids will know. There's no way this will be kept a secret. Eldest daughter might have made very different choices if she'd known there was a fund for college. And what happens if the eldest daughter decides to go back? She's only 22. Or if any of her other kids don't? What if they want to go for graduates? What if one kid chooses an Ivy and the other community college? You speak dismissively about the committed man who stuck by her side through teenage pregnancy, another child, and has asked her to marry him. You speak as if she's less than because of mistakes she made in high school. It's not about money or education. It's about control. You're mad and punishing her because she chose a different life path. Not the idiot. A GED is affordable and doable. She's choosing to keep having kids she can't afford. She doesn't need a wedding. She needs a reality check. If she put forth minimal effort to better her life, it would be reasonable to ask for some money. A fancy party does nothing to feed and clothe her kids. You offered her what's left from the fund if she goes to school. She's decided that school isn't important and save her funds for the grandkids. Agree, it's not her money. It never was. And it was never a trust fund. It was money set aside to fund an education for her. And you've made it clear that it's still very generously available to her to do that. As a 22-year-old high school dropout with 2 children and a third on the way, she should be realizing, if she's matured at all, and based on her and her husband's struggles of the last few years, that going back to school and getting an education is the best possible thing that she could do for her future and her family's financial stability.